Hey folks, I'm here with my friend Brett, and he's going to talk about his Haas 400 high efficiency wood furnace. For those that don't know, the difference between a wood furnace and a wood stove is the way it burns. The wood furnace has a forced air system, uses a fan, so you can burn things really hot and really cleanly with it. So you want to go over the features?
Sure. Yeah, so we purchased this particular unit about 7 years ago. So we've had it for that long. We actually, installed the pad. The rest of the concrete was here, but we set this up because we knew we had this section here of, to put wood in, and we wanted it close to where our wood was. So we poured the pad, and when they came, they actually brought it on the back of a truck, and they were able to slide it right into place. It was really nice. And then I went ahead and I got a ditcher, and then ran a ditching line from here to the plenum of our furnace out here.
So this is hooked up to your main central heat and air?
It is, yeah. The way that works is it has a pump in the back. It's jacketed with a reservoir of water, and then it has a temperature gauge as well, so that it monitors the temperature. When it drops below a certain threshold, in this case I believe it's 155, then the damper opens up, the blower turns on, and then it blows air, and then it brings the fire up in the firebox, and that'll raise that temperature until 175 is where the cutoff is, and then it'll shut the damper, turn the blowers off, and then the coals just die down. So it kind of maintains the temperature within that range, but it has a pump in the back. And actually we can, while we're standing here, I'll go ahead and open this up. I filled it this morning. I didn't fill it up all the way because I didn't want there to be a whole big pile of coals.
Stay back just a little bit
All
so
right.
I can see what you're doing.
Yeah, so the way that they have it set up is they've got a grading system right here for everything to sit on top of. Obviously there's ways for the air to kind of get up. In the back there's a space, and in the front there's a space as well. And then you've got plenty of space below to capture all of the ash.
So this is like your ash pan, kind of.
Yes, exactly. And let me grab, they gave us this tool, which I love, for, moving the
Coals.
the coals around, the logs that are unburned around. But then the nice thing is it's shaped so that you just pull this out and then go in and pull your ash directly into your ash bucket. We just got a normal, feeding trough.
You'll never do that inside a house.
No. Yeah, it's nice that it's outside.
Yes.
So all the mess stays outside. But yeah, so it's easy to clean up, and then when you're done, you push it right back underneath.
My biggest complaint with the wood stove on the inside of the house, it's not the bark or anything.
Yeah.
It's the ash, because it goes airborne.
Yes.
So you wind up every time you clean. I probably should buy a ash vacuum.
Yeah.
So that would solve that problem.
Yeah.
But so basically, this is your grate that everything allows the coals to fall under, and
then
is
this
the fan?
This is where the forced air comes through here. There's holes that are drilled into it. And so, yeah, when it forces the air, it'll come out through holes all from here to the back.
Let me move the camera and we'll get a little bit closer. Sure. So I'm afraid people are not going to be able to see what we're talking about. So. All right. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I was saying, there's holes that are drilled into here, and I believe, they're right along the sides. That way, they're not on top, because that way you don't want ash to kind of plug them up.
Right.
This way they stay open. And it makes it really nice. There's very little that you have to do throughout the year.
Right.
I should say throughout the the usage, the season of usage, because we only run this from about October to the end of May, because we will use it to heat our house and also our water.
So this heats all your water?
All of our water, yes.
Okay.
And the way that it does that is in the back there is, now do you want to take a look at that real quick, the back?
Sure.
All right, let me close this up. Yeah, with it open, the fire is starting back up again. Which isn't a bad thing, but if you got lots of wood in there, you can get lots of flame.
Oh yeah, I see the little gate latch on the back.
Yeah. So, quite a few cobwebs, but this is the damper and the blower.
Yeah.
And this is the thermostat. So this is where you determine, the range, the cutoff, and also, when you want it to activate. This is the pump. The pump runs 24/7, and it continually
you can hear
circulates.
It running.
Yeah, it's not that loud, but you can hear it running. It continually circulates that hot water through insulated PEX tubing under the ground all the way out to the plenum of our furnace, and then it also branches off and goes underneath the house. And we have 2 hot water heaters, and it goes to each one of them. And we have a heat exchanger just above the hot water heater, so that when you turn on the hot water, it pulls water into the hot water heater, into that reservoir. And typically, for a hot water heater, it also has a thermostat, and when that temperature drops below a certain temperature, it'll turn on and heat that reservoir up. But if you got a heat exchanger up on top and you're pulling water through that heat exchanger, it heats that water up above what the cutoff temperature is. And so during the winter, what ends up happening is those, instead of being a normal hot water heater, it just becomes a reservoir of hot water.
So this sounds like your system is kind of like my solar system in that I preheat my water. So if, for example, if you did not have a fire in this going, you would still have hot water in your house.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So there's right. So if you miss or you go out of town or whatever and come back, and you still have
still going to have hot water.
Still going to have hot water. It's going to cost you money.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So since we're on the subject of money, how much do you estimate this saves you on your water bill? I mean, well, your hot water, electric bill, I should say.
So typically, and I just recently looked at this, in the summer, we spend anywhere from $300 to $400 a month to cool the house, and also for our hot water. But in the winter, we're spending, they've kicked the prices, the pricing of electricity up recently. But right now, we're spending around $120 a month on electricity.
And you've got, how big's your house?
It's about 3,100 square feet.
And how big's your family?
We've got 7 living here right now.
Okay, so lots of showers.
Lots of showers, yes. Lots of showers. Lots of electronics use. So, yeah, there's a lot of electricity that's used. But, we're still in the winter when, if you were spending electricity on heat, it's very expensive in the winter to spend it on heat. So we save quite a bit of money on that.
What I like about this system is that, you've got a door. You can access everything very quickly, and you can service everything.
Yes.
So let's talk about service. What do you have to do to this thing on a yearly basis, and what are the costs?
So the only thing I really have to do with this is use some like WD-40 on it, just to make sure that the solenoid is moving the way that it's supposed to. And that's about it with this. I haven't had to replace it. I haven't had to do anything other than some WD-40 to make sure that those moving parts keep moving. This has not had to be replaced yet. I've gone ahead and I've purchased a second one so that I have it on hand in case it ever needs to be replaced. But in the 7 years that we've been running it, it's been running very smoothly.
Those I can't pronounce it. It's
Grundfos.
Grundfos. Yeah. Those are amazing pumps. They pull almost no power, and they run. They're really, really well made.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. In fact, this came with a different pump, and we were advised, yeah, that pump will work, but you should get one of these. So we did. I have the other pump still, just in case we need it, but I have a second Grundfos ready to go if this one ever goes down.
So what's let's talk about the pipes down here. We've
Sure.
got these capped pipes. What are those for?
Okay, so these are additional inputs or ways to get to the reservoir of water.
Okay.
So you can set up additional pumps. So if you've got, say, another exterior building that you want to heat with this, you can just put another pump in place, run another line, and now you will have to use more wood if you
Right.
do that, but you can run, at least the way that they've got it set up here, 2 additional pumps you can set up. So we've considered doing that. You know, we've
heating
thought
your
about
barn?
maybe maybe the barn or maybe a greenhouse.
I've got another friend that's got one of these units, and he's got his shop
Yeah,
heated
perfect.
with, he's got basically a forced air radiator and
Yeah, that'd be a great usage for it.
so.
But yeah, if this ever needs to get replaced, there's valves here. We just close the valves, and it would be pretty easy to put the other one back in.
Right.
And it's very easy to hook up, and then just open them back up again. It's the lines are already full of liquid.
So back to maintenance, you have to clean that. What about the water system?
I don't really have to do much beyond top off the water in the reservoir.
Do you have a rust inhibitor you have to add?
Yes, every year there's I can't even remember the size, maybe a 32-ounce bottle of rust inhibitor that I purchase, and I use about half of it a year. So it's not a whole lot that needs to get used, but yeah, every year I need to top it off, and I'll add additional rust inhibitor.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that brings us to wood consumption. How many times a day do you fill this thing up?
It depends on how cold it is outside.
Well, we just had a really, really cold week.
Yes, we did.
We had we had lows in the 8 single digits,
Yeah.
and we had highs around 24.
Yeah, so on those really cold days, I'll need to fill it twice. Once in the morning and once before bed. And that's it.
So 12 hours apiece, 12 hours between.
Yeah,
roughly.
and then you could, and we have done this, you can actually fill it so that you've got 2 kind of stacks, one in the back and one in the front. We've done that before, but it kind of takes up a ton of space, and I like to have some space in there for air movement. So I'll fill it on those days where it's really cold. I'll fill it all the way up, but just 1 stack in the middle, and yeah, and it lasts for 12 hours, and then I'll come out and refill it.
Cool. Let's go over to your wood pile and
Yeah.
show them how much wood you've used this season.
All right.
So I guess before we show how much he's used, let me show how much he's got in reserve.
Oh yeah.
So he's got this stacked. I can't even count how many. They go all the way back. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, watch your step.
The floor system here lacks a little bit to be desired.
It's usually covered with wood.
So yeah, he's got quite the reservoir, and this is how much he's used. We measured this earlier, so this is 9 feet wide and 6 feet tall, and he's used 4 stacks.
Yep.
And he's working on his 5th. So it's been a pretty good winter, but I would say
December was kind of warm, but January has been really cold.
yes, January has been really, really cold. I would give you that. It's our wood usage is really, really
Yes,
gone up.
yes.
So the month of December, like you only fed that once a day.
Once a day? That's right.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
it can be, if you don't like keeping fires or whatever, you had to start it. I bet how many times have you had to start it from scratch this season?
I think once, and that was when we were away. Typically what we'll do is we'll fill it up, we'll pack it full of wood when we know we're going to be gone for at least a few days. And if we're not heating the house, I'll set the thermostat down lower than normal, and we're not pulling any hot water, then it really doesn't turn the dampers on in the blower very frequently.
Right.
Once I've had to come back and restart it, but other than that, even being away a couple of days, usually it's okay, and there's still some hot coals, and I won't need to restart it.
Yeah, no one. I understand people who do not like building fires. I don't have my current wood stove.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually started a fire from scratch in, I don't know, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
When we had a warm day, I was like, I don't need
right.
the coals. But,
Yeah.
But
this does a really good job of keeping at least some hot coals. Even when that damper is not open and the blower isn't running.
Now, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to break out my infrared camera. And I'm going to
see how hot the
this
front door is.
See if how well insulated this thing is. See if it picks up any hot spots. But
well, that door is gonna
yeah. It's gonna be a little warm.
Yeah. The rest of it probably not quite as much, but that door will. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brett, for showing me your wood furnace.
Yeah.
It's a furnace.
Hey, you're welcome.
So anyway.
It's fun. I love having the opportunity, having an excuse to spend time in the spring out, cutting wood and splitting it, and so that for me is relaxing.
I enjoy it as well. Well, that's right. As anyone's got a farm, they don't have a gym membership.
That's right. Exactly. I have a wood furnace, and
right.
that's what I need.
Yeah, that. All right, folks. Now I'm going to talk about wood stoves as opposed to wood furnaces. What are their drawbacks, pluses, etc. So you can kind of decide which one is probably best for you. So behind me is a Hearthstone Manchester pre-catalytic. It's a nice wood stove, gives off really even heat. Obviously, I'm very close to the stove. I can do that because it's a Hearthstone. It provides really wonderful heat. And I've got, of course, got a water kettle on top because having a wood stove, this is one of the drawbacks, having a wood stove in your house tends to dry your air out more than, say, if you're using a wood furnace outside. So that's the first drawback, is drying your air. That may not be a problem. It just depends on where you live at and what your relative humidity is and how you run your furnace or wood stove, I should say. So obviously, so I left this. I haven't done any morning cleanup or anything. I left the trash. You see some ash on the bottom, and I've got some ash on the ashtray. So I wanted everybody to kind of see this is real world usage. For those that are super animal attentive, then you would be cleaning that up quickly. But the biggest, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest thing with wood stoves is not the wood debris, it's the ash. When you clean out your ash, this one is actually pretty nice in that we don't actually put a lot of ash in the air, whereas if you have to scoop, like my other one, which is an insert, you have to scoop it, and pouring it into the bucket puts a lot of it in the air. Even though you put the lid back on the bucket, you're doing that over and over again. So you tend to have, with one that doesn't have an ash pan, you tend to wind up with more ash in the air, which then settles on everything. It's not a huge amount, just depending on how tidy you are, but it is significant in that, and there's a big difference between this stove and our insert. Like I said, our insert, we wind up with putting a lot more ash in the air because it doesn't have an ashtray. Whereas this stove has got a nice, just open this bottom door. This is actually a door. You open it and slide a cast iron plate, which opens up the grate, and you can just move the ash around and it sifts down through, and then kind of stays. Once it settles and gets cold, you can pour it. We just take it outside and pour it into a bucket. So that's a nice clean fairly way. So not a lot of dirt with this, but by comparison with no dirt of the wood furnace, it's something to think about. So my friend Brett, he used about 3 times the amount of firewood I've used this season. Now, that may sound like a lot, but it's really not when you consider he is heating a larger house. I am 2,100 square feet. He is 3,100 square feet. So he automatically has, that accounts for a lot, and he's heating his water. As well as he's heating his house completely even. The thing with a wood stove, you can keep the house kind of toasty warm, but your outlying rooms and that sort of thing, they're going to be a few degrees cooler than the rooms with the wood stoves. So you're not going to get that really nice even distributed heat. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're one of those people that likes, like ourselves, we like to sleep in a cooler bedroom, so we like it cooler there. So it's really not a problem for us, but for some people it might be. Well, we need to talk about cost. Now, this is an expensive stove. These run now $5,000. So I've got its insert. So I've got $10,000 tied up in wood stoves. Now, these are high-end stoves. You get a lot for a high-end stove that you don't get with a cheap stove. But that's another factor is that if you do not have a lot of money, that a cheap stove is better than no heat at all, right? Or paying the utility company exorbitant amounts and you never get ahead. So these will enable you to get really nice heat, a higher end stove. You'll be happier with it if you're going to go with a wood stove. Now, I do not recommend an outdoor wood furnace if you've got a little tiny house, like a 1,000 square foot house or something. Putting in the expense, those run, the outdoor wood stoves run on average about $12,000 now, plus installation, and you actually have to have a system that will work with it, like central heat and air, or you have to put in radiators. So that's a lot. There can be a lot of expense on that furnace for that convenience of never having to have wood inside the house. So if you don't have the money, then a wood stove is probably a better option for you. If you've got all the money in the world and are building a house, then maybe you should consider, I think if you're building a sizable house, 2,500 square feet or better, and also it depends on how you have your house designed. So my house was originally 1,200 square foot and I added 1,100 square foot addition. So I have to have 2 wood stoves, one on each end, because the house is so long. It's not a 2-story or anything like that. So having that width can be an issue as far as having just 1 wood stove. So for me, I had to have 2 wood stoves. So the outdoor furnace, the biggest drawback is in the case of a power outage. They require electricity. The air handler requires electricity, or if you got radiators, they don't require electricity, but you still have to have something to run the pumps and run the furnace, regulate the furnace. That's not that big of a deal. A small generator is enough to run the outdoor furnace in the case of emergency. So it depends on how much power outages you wind up with as to whether or not you're going to be without heat for an extended period of time. Myself, I think if I was putting in a wood boiler unit, an outdoor wood boiler unit, I would wire it up and have the electrician wire up so that a generator could be plugged directly in to the air handler and the line that's going out to the wood stove. So a small generator would be able to pull and be able to have heat. That would be a nice thing. So obviously, the biggest drawback on these is dirt, is ash and a little bit of wood bark debris and the occasional bug that's normally a stink bug, because they like to try to overwinter in our wood stacks. Till we had stink bugs, we never saw a bug. Luckily, we don't bring in many stink bugs. I think we've brought in 3 this season. So they seem to be not quite as prevalent as they have been in the past, and I'm hoping for the golden orb spider to finally make its way to East Tennessee. So anyway, the other factor involved is, of course, is safety. So this stack behind me is a double wall. I have a double wall all the way up through the roof with special fittings that go through the roof, so it becomes actually more than a triple wall through the roof and through the ceiling. So that's another factor, is that a chimney fire in your outdoor wood boiler can be an issue. As far as threatening your house, no. A chimney fire in your outdoor wood boiler, you might set the woods on fire or something, depending on where you're at. But your house, if you've got it set up properly, your house should be safe. Now, a chimney fire in a modern chimney probably is not going to happen. These stoves, they're engineered to burn really clean, but they're engineered without a damper. The reason they don't have a damper in is they really control the amount of air going into them. So a chimney fire is kind of starved for air. It just can't really pull. If you've got a good stove, it really can't pull enough to ignite, because chimney fires require a lot of air. So this chimney stack here behind me is a single wall stainless double wall stainless all the way up, and it is pretty much a self-cleaning stack. I have inspected the stack, taken it apart, and it's always been clean. I start with a hot fire, and it sounds like rain coming down on top of the chimney. You can hear it, just this sound of the creosote releasing. That when you start the fire, it actually releases the creosote, because the metal expands faster than the creosote gets sticky. And my other chimney, on the other hand, has got a stainless steel liner now. It does require cleaning so far I'm cleaning it once a year, because it's corrugated, and there's little ribs, and the creosote can't just flake off the same way that it can with a smooth single wall. And speaking of which, if you are going to put in one, I would highly recommend going straight through your roof. Go straight up. Don't make bends. Bends reduce your draft. They collect creosote, and they're just a lot more trouble compared to just a single stack, a single riser. So anyway, if you're a small family, Brett, obviously he's got 7 people living there. That's a lot of hot water, and his savings, in hot water is about $200 a month. So it really, really pays for him. He says he runs it for about 5 months. That's $1,000 a year he's saving on his hot water bill. So, but myself, I have about the same electrical bill that he does in the winter, because I'm not getting the free hot water, but I don't have as many people living with me. It's just myself and my wife, although I do run a welder from time to time. We don't have near the electric load that he does, because one, we're not running an air handler to move the air around, and that does consume some electricity. So if you're just a couple or something with a small house, I think a wood stove is probably a better fit. But if you've got a sizable house with an existing HVAC system, or if you're designing a house from the ground up, then you may want to have that that convenience of the outdoor wood burner where you only have to load it once or twice a day as opposed to have to throw wood in. I normally have to feed this fire. I'm going to say I normally feed a fire 5 times a day. So I put a little wood in, and that's for keep, that can run, these will run 20, these have a heat life of 30 hours, but you can't run between 30 hours and putting wood in. You're going to be, that's the actual extreme heat life. These stoves, realistically, they've got, you go 12 hours and still have coals and rebuild a fire. So that's kind of the best inconvenience, is you want something that you can let go overnight and not have to feed, not have to get up and feed the fire. You can just go to bed and wake up in the morning and throw some wood on there and some kindling and it go to blazing. So the real, to me, the only real plus of a wood stove is the actual view of the fire. For me, that's very comforting. I really enjoy having, I've got the other one is an insert in front of my fireplace. I've got other videos of it, but having that flame something to look at as something has always been very nice. Since my grandfather, who originally I did the addition onto his original house, and as a kid growing up, I watched the flames in the fireplace and was just mesmerized by I could just sit and watch the flames for hours. It's something that I guess the romantic in me would be, you're not going to get that with an outdoor wood furnace. Instead, it's just meat and potatoes, warm house. So if you really like a fire, or if you're designing a house, go for both. Or put in a masonry heater with a pizza oven. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This is like I said, I'm trying to give people real world data for these decisions. Most people they jump into stuff and they don't, if they're new to wood burning or stoves or whatever, a salesman's going to tell you whatever he thinks you want to hear. Pellet stove salesman's going to say that they have this insane efficiency. They don't. They're going to say that a 2,500 BTU stove can heat 2,200 square feet. It can't. This stove is 75,000 BTUs, and my other one's 60,000. I can easily heat those. I would also recommend that you go over. If you've got a stove, you look at the data. The truth in when you're shopping for stoves and stuff like that is look at the firebox size and the efficiency rating. With those two items, you can really figure out by looking at several different stoves what the truth is. It's kind of hard to calculate because they all use this funny math when they're making up their efficiency estimates. The home heating value, the HHV, is a pretty realistic number for the efficiency, and then you take the firebox size, and then you can really get an idea of what you're dealing with as far as the size that you need for a house. I would recommend that you don't go to the bare minimum. You want a wood stove, the higher heat life or burn time. If you can find a stove that has at least a 12-hour burn time, get that. I would not get anything smaller. And those wood furnaces, the outdoor wood furnace, obviously has up to a 24-hour burn time. Since Brett was saying he was loading most of the winter, he was loading it once a day, which is just great. You just go out in the morning. Bad thing is, if it's rainy in the morning or what have you, may not be the nicest morning to go out and load the wood stove. But I would say that may be, unless you live in Scotland, that may be few and far between. So anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I hope I covered everything. If you got any questions, on wood stoves, wood burners. I'll try to answer them. If not, I'll find an answer for you. And I hope you guys have a great day.